Parents, before we get into this video, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to sit down. I need you to take a breath, because what I'm about to show you is exactly why so many of you feel like the whole world is against you right now. This is a video from Your Tango on TikTok. It has a few thousand likes and a couple hundred comments. And the basics of this video is it's the parents' fault always, because you had one job. And we're going to walk through this together. And I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be honest. But I'm also going to tell you the truth that nobody else in this space is willing to say out loud.
Whose fault is it when a parent's adult child won't speak to them anymore? In case you haven't noticed, we seem to be in a bit of a heyday of parental estrangement, especially in the last couple weeks. Back in 1997, a study showed that just 7% of people were estranged from a family member. But by 2020, that number had risen to 25%. So you can imagine what it is by now. And when it comes to who's to blame, a lot of people would probably side with people like TikToker Sinusoid Bananas. She's since deleted her video about the subject, but her hot take is pretty hard to argue with. In short, it's a parent's job to maintain a relationship with their child, not the other way around. And in her words, if your children no longer speak to you, it's probably because you failed at your one job as a parent. And that, she chalked up to many parents' emotional immaturity. That may sound harsh, but speaking from personal experience, I'm kind of bummed she deleted her video, because she's absolutely right. My mom chose to sever ties with me, not the other way around, but the reason was the same. Rather than be emotionally mature and try to work out our differences, she decided she wanted nothing to do with me instead. Kind of like picking up your toys and storming home, except you're a mom and you're talking about your child. I can't really think of a better definition of emotionally immature than that. And psychologist Dr. Johnny's Webb agrees with this emotional immaturity take as well. She told us that emotionally immature parents tend to be wholly ignorant of their children's needs. And that often comes with extremely volatile, selfish, inconsiderate behavior, and perhaps especially abandoning the emotional responsibilities of parenthood, which can leave their children feeling abandoned, unsupportive, and often dealing with low self-esteem that lasts a lifetime. Families have always faced struggles, of course, but it used to just sort of be conventional wisdom that you had to suck it up and deal with it. People aren't really willing to do that anymore. Nowadays, in addition to the idea of chosen family that you can create for yourself, many younger people today reject the notion that they owe their parents something simply for having raised them. And they're right. You aren't owed a loving relationship when you aren't showing that to your children in return. It's these generational disagreements that seem to be fueling this wave of estrangements. Now, I have to be honest, as someone who went through estrangement more than 10 years ago before it was cool, I do tend to feel that there's a little bit of social contagion going on. And honestly, I'm often astonished nowadays by the reasons some people give for being estranged from their parents. But even those cases usually share one thing in common. They simply will not take accountability for any of their actions, and often seem to view the mere request that they do so as a personal affront. That's not really how relationships work. Of course, every relationship is different, and some of these estrangements probably are unfounded. But in most cases, until these parents simply humble themselves and show a willingness to repair their relationship, we're going to keep seeing these types of estrangements continue to rise and rise. Because when you refuse to take accountability, you give the relationship nowhere to go unless the other party agrees to continue allowing themselves to be hurt as a favor. And nobody owes anybody that.
Did you hear that? One job. Like, raising a child is a single task. You either pass or fail. Like, you weren't working double shifts. Like, you weren't fighting your own trauma. Nobody helped you with. Like, you weren't showing up every single day for a person who is now using your worst moments as their entire story about you. I want to be fair here. I genuinely do. Because I believe there are parents who failed. I believe there are households that were genuinely toxic. I believe some adult children went no contact for real reasons and real pain. I'm not dismissing that. If that's your story, I have compassion for you too. But this is not what this framing does. This framing takes the full weight off of a broken relationship and drops it entirely on one person. And the second you do that, you have stopped having a conversation and started building a courtroom where the verdict was already decided. Right? One job. Let me tell you that one job actually, what that one job actually looked like. For a lot of you watching this right now, that one job was working overtime so the light stayed on. That one job was sitting at a school play in work clothes you didn't have time to go home and change out of. That one job was saying, I love you to someone who rolled their eyes and walked away. That one job was apologizing for things you didn't fully understand yet because you were still figuring out your own life while trying to guide someone else through theirs. That's not one job. That is 1,000 jobs with no manual, no training, and no guarantees. Right? That was it. Now let me talk to my people for a second. The ones who gave everything and got silenced back. I need you to hear this clearly, because this kind of content is designed to make you feel like a criminal. And when you're already grieving, when you already question yourself every single day, content like this hits different. It doesn't just hurt, it rewrites your story. It takes your sacrifices and calls it abuse. It takes your imperfections and calls it a pattern. It takes your grief and calls it a consequence. And I need you to stop letting that happen inside of your own mind. You are not on trial. You made mistakes. Every parent who has ever lived made mistakes. The question is not whether you were perfect. The question is whether you were present, whether you loved them, whether you tried. And most of you watching this right now, the answer to all three of those is yes. Yes. Now, here's where this narrative gets wrong at its foundation. It assumes that the adult child's perception is the complete record, right? It assumes that memory is accurate. It assumes that the story they told themselves in therapy or on social media or in their friend group is the whole truth. And I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying memory is complicated. Pain is complicated. And when someone spends years building a case against you in their own head, every piece of evidence gets filtered through that lens. You were not perfect. Neither were they. Neither is anyone. But perfection was never the standard for love, and it should never become the standard for access. Let me say something that might make some people uncomfortable. And I don't care. I don't care. The no contact movement has done something dangerous. It has given people permission to outsource their healing to your suffering. Think about what I just said. Your child is not healing by cutting you off. They are avoiding, and the internet is standing up and cheering them on for it. Therapists are validating it. TikTok is monetizing it. And you are sitting at home on your birthday wondering why your phone is quiet. That is not healing. That is avoidance within hashtag. Now look, I believe in boundaries, real boundaries. I believe in protecting your peace. I say that to my own community every single day. But there's a difference between a boundary and a punishment. A boundary says I need space to heal. A punishment says I will use my absence to make you feel what I felt. And a lot of what gets called no contact is the second thing dressed up as the first, right? A lot of that happens. So here's where I'll land on this. If you're a parent watching this video and it made you feel worthless, I need you to hear me. You are not the sum of your worst moments. Your child's pain is real, and so is yours. Both things can be true at the same time. But I refuse to sit here and let a media